Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz saxophone virtuoso James Carter. He opened up about his latest 2019 CD, James Carter Organ Trio, live from Newport Jazz. He's now at 50 and making his debut as a bandleader for Blue Note Records. He was born in 1969 in Detroit, and he began playing at the age of 11 and studied early on with trumpeter Marcus Belgrave. As a prodigy, he quickly progressed, and by 1986, at the age of 17, he joined Wynton Marsalis on tour. He had 6 recordings under his own name between 93 and 2000, and has consistently been lauded for his prowess on the jazz bandstand. He opened up about this and quite a bit more, so please dig this interview, my friends.
Cool, man. Hey, James, thanks for taking a minute out today.
Thanks for finding me viable to be able to have such audience and inquiries and all that other good stuff.
Right on. Let's start off with your organ trio live from Newport Jazz. Great recording. Talk to me a little bit about how you feel about the sound quality and what went into this project.
To be honest with you, this was I call it a hostile album because of the fact that originally we were doing this album in the studio last year. Basically, the genre and change stuff couldn't be harnessed inside of a studio. You know, it got its wings in a live audience situation when Don Was from Blue Note heard the project. It was at the 2017 Monterey Festival live, and he and his kids dug it, you know. So it's at its best when it's live, and as fate would have it, we were in, like I said, for 3 days in the studio in July of last year. We couldn't use any of the material. So thank heavens, fast forward August 5th of 2018, we were at the Newport Fest, and they just happened to have the feed going into the boards, and that's how we got the basic sound from that and that material.
So, you know, sometimes there's musicians that like to do the studio, others like to do it live. Where do you fall in that kind of realm of recording?
I like doing them both. Of course, they're different venues. Of course, always live would be the best situation. But on the flip side of the frosting menu, of course, you get a chance to concentrate a bit more and have a bit more of a format or whatever in the studio. You know, but like I was saying earlier, this project, it can be formatted, but it would sound a bit constrained if it is.
How do you see each of your successive releases? Do you see it as an evolution of yourself as a musician? Do you see it as an imprint in time, a combination of both? How do you view it?
All the above. It certainly is. It's always supposed to be an evolution of, you know, whatever the material is. And even if I'm going back to revisit material, I mean, it's because I hear some other nuances that I wish to bring to the forefront. This on the project, case in point. The first time I dealt with any of the Gypsy Malou or Reinhardt's material, of course, was with Chasing the Gypsy, and that was in the acoustic, you know, realm. But to actually have the ability to hear it where it could be presented in an electrical, you know, more of a urbanized format was something that we kind of stumbled upon back in 2002. But it really didn't come to fruition until a few years before the recording that we just did.
Speaking of evolution, let's go back to your beginnings in Detroit. Talk to me a little bit about how you got into music and more specifically jazz, or what your childhood was like with music.
Born January 3rd, 1969, youngest of 5 kids, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, all musically inclined. And as a result of that, and also my parents, mom used to play violin and piano in her formative years, and Dad just played a mean radio and wouldn't add nothing that sounded like BS on it, you know. So there were standards that were going on, you know. So to that end, my brothers and sisters and, you know, everybody basically played a mixture of everything from the Beatles to Parliament Funkadelic to Isley Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, ad infinitum. It was all played throughout the house. But I single-handedly cite my mom as the jazz reference because she'd clean up, and in her leisure time listen to the greats like Billy Eckstine, Carmen McRae, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, And it seemed like that was the only time that she was like really cool, yeah. So I started listening along with her, and there was always this sound that came right after the vocals, for the most part, and that sound was the saxophone. And I was enthralled by the sound of the horn, and then to see it later on, the gold, the opulence that, most of these saxophones entail on the album covers, and also I was turned out.
Hey, what was the first jazz show you really saw that captivated you?
Sometime 1980 at the music hall here in Detroit. It was Count Basie's orchestra with Billy Eckstine as the guest vocalist. The fact that it was a big band, and I had previously had one of Basie's flow recordings, Basie Jam 3, that had Joe Pass, John Hurd, Louis Bellson, Lockjaw, Benny Carter, Al Gray, and Clark Terry was the front line. And to finally see, Basie come to life and to hear the big band and then to watch your mother lose it as a result of Billy Eckstine coming on. That was a sight and a sound to hear.
Absolutely.
It was like, girls losing it at an Usher or a Justin Bieber concert now. And to see your mom, extend her adolescence out there and almost getting ready to fall over the balcony. Just talks about the sheer power that these cats had.
Absolutely.
So fast forward to 2 years after that, November of 82, my teacher, Mr. Donald Washington, gave my folks a heads up saying that I'm going to take James down to this concert with the World Saxophone Quartet. So I'm 13 years old, and this is the very first time I'm hearing World Saxophone Quartet live. To watch 4 saxophonists individually and collectively just literally shred a stage, stoke the fuel and furnace inside of me that won't quit to this day. And they were dressed in like tuxes, so it had like that string quartet, that sort of formality. But they were informal about whatever it was that they were playing.
So since you were young, was music going to be the path that you wanted to take in life? Is that always what you thought your life would be?
Originally I thought I was into science and computers. I thought that was the way that it was going to go down. But then in comes, the family music bug as far as I was concerned, and the saxophone basically chose me. I didn't choose it.
So at 23, you release your first album, JC on the Set. You get all kinds of great reviews. My question is, did you ever feel pressure after that first release with all the great reviews, or has this just been the way you live your life?
The follow-up, when Jurassic Classics came about, where everybody talks about the sophomore jinx or whatever it is, I don't really recall myself feeling that. It was just basically music you felt like performing and documenting in your own way. Come hell or high water, folks are either going to dig it or they're not, In my earlier years, at my mom's house, and she still has this piece of furniture, it's a china cabinet, right? So inside this china cabinet, of course, a bunch of dishes, cups, saucers, and everything's hanging up or, being suspended in a particular way that's on display. And I used to practice either adjacent or in front of that china cabinet. And depending upon whatever note I played, a certain cup, dish, or a group of, plates or whatever would start vibrating. Just the slightest amount of lip pressure would take away that vibration and something else would vibrate. So I'm saying that to say that basically the china cabinet and its contents was a microcosm of whatever, the people of Earth. Not everything's going to hit everybody at the same time, unless it's something that's seriously strong, forceful or whatever that's being forced upon you. Of course, then everything's going to vibrate. But for the most part, if I turn my lip a smidgen of away from concert A, that 440 turning into 442 stops something from vibrating or being in cahoots or having communion with me, and then gets turned off, and then something else gets turned off. Early on, folks saying, you're not going to please everybody all the blinking time.
You've been fortunate over your career to play with a lot of legends and luminaries. What have the elders of jazz taught you about how to, not only be a musician, but how to live your life?
Well, that's first and foremost right there, is that music and life don't separate. That's the first thing. Pops, I call Mr. Washington. That's one of the first things that he taught me, that this is it's one thing to be involved with it musically and to get your entertainment and stuff, that type of value off of it. But ultimately, it's a way of life. It's a culture. It's definitely a culture, and as of such, there are chieftains, there are elders that you definitely have to adhere to and holler back at and listen to whatever it is that they have to say and take it and then shape it in your own way in order for it to become viable for you. And one of the good things that a whole lot of the elders, including my teacher, talked about was not only the fact that you have to deal with good music, but you also have to keep your body together. And a whole lot of that, as a result, I look at, some of my elders' health, their dental health, mental as well as physical health, and basically it was really hip to hear them say, it's not all about the music, because if your body ain't happening, then you certainly aren't going to be able to produce at optimum level.
Let me ask you this. If you have a dream tonight, you run into your younger self, say from like 15, 20 years ago, and you could give yourself advice, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one, because put more money away, keep diversifying one's craft as much as possible to become that much more versatile and be able to do other things that keeps you viable and relevant in more people's eyes. That way you can bring more of the items that are contained in the china cabinet.
What's the best thing about being a musician?
The best thing is being able to communicate and travel. Communicate musically with other individuals, to travel and to see and to feel other cultures firsthand, and not necessarily depend upon what's on social media or what somebody else second, third hand, tells you. You have your own experiences that you can convey and impart to your kids and the other people that can obviously turn them around and say, hey, I want to do that too, and be able to experience that. And that brings us closer together.
Everything's going to come down to this. I want to know, everyone has a perception of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, that you know yourself best. Who do you think you are?
If somebody's trying to play these instruments and keep the neck warm and the reed wet. And bring people closer to, not only to the music, but ultimately to be able to look within themselves and to find that in the voice and stuff that helps them to be able to express themselves, Because in a whole lot of instances, you find people that aren't able to express themselves, and they wind up being toxic individuals.
Absolutely. Hey, man, thank you for taking some time out to talk about the new life.
No, I appreciate it.
Good luck with everything. I appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Detroit, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to James for his class, time, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.